Welcome to Starry Night Stories.
Snow White. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. Her skin was as white as snow, her hair as black as ebony, and her lips as red as a rose. Her beauty made the wicked queen very jealous. This new queen possessed a magical mirror, and every day she would ask it, "Mirror, mirror, on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror would always respond, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true. But Snow White is even fairer than you." This answer filled the queen with jealousy and rage. As Snow White grew older, her beauty became more radiant, and the queen's envy deepened. Unable to bear the thought of anyone being more beautiful than her, the queen devised a wicked plan to eliminate her stepdaughter. She summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White deep into the forest and kill her. The huntsman, though loyal to the queen, could not bring himself to harm the innocent girl. When they reached a secluded spot, he revealed the queen's plot and urged Snow White to flee and never return. Terrified, she ran deep into the forest, not looking back. After wandering for hours, Snow White stumbled upon a small cottage. She entered and found it cozy and inviting, with 7 tiny chairs and 7 little beds. Exhausted, she lay down on one of the beds and soon fell asleep. That evening, the 7 dwarfs who lived in the cottage returned home from the mines. They were astonished to find Snow White sleeping peacefully in their beds. Overcome by her beauty, they decided to protect her. When Snow White awoke, she was delighted to meet the dwarfs and shared her story with them. They welcomed her and promised to keep her safe. Days turned into weeks, and Snow White found happiness living with the dwarfs. However, the wicked queen soon discovered that Snow White was still alive. Furious, she disguised herself as an old peddler woman and set out to find the princess. The queen approached the cottage and offered Snow White a beautiful, poisoned apple. Unsuspecting, Snow White took a bite and fell to the ground, lifeless. The dwarfs returned home to find her in a deep sleep and placed her in a glass coffin, mourning her loss. One day, a handsome prince happened upon the cottage. He was captivated by Snow White's beauty and leaned down to kiss her. Miraculously, the kiss broke the spell, and Snow White awakened from her slumber. Joyful and grateful, Snow White and the prince fell in love. They invited the dwarfs to their wedding, and the wicked queen, upon learning of Snow White's revival, was consumed by her own jealousy. Ultimately, she faced her own demise. And so, Snow White and the prince lived happily ever after, surrounded by friends and love, proving that goodness and kindness will always triumph over evil.
Background of the story.
The story of Snow White originates from German folklore, and the most famous version was collected and adapted by the Brothers Grimm in the 19th century. In fact, the historical prototype of Snow White is Maria Sophia Margaretha Katharina von Erthel, who was born in Lorem, Maine in 1725. Her father, Philip Christoph von Erthel, was a nobleman, and her mother died when she was young. According to legend, Maria's stepmother was a beautiful but cruel woman. Elements of this story gradually evolved into the Snow White story we know well in later versions. This story is not just a fairy tale, it reflects the good and evil, jealousy and love, courage and hope in human nature. The story of Snow White teaches us that no matter what difficulties we face, love and kindness will eventually overcome all darkness.
That's the entire story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this story, please remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to support us in creating more wonderful content. Good night and sweet dreams.